Are you a solopreneur, a team of 5 ready to scale, or a remote team in SLC looking for a new space? Look no further. The Square has everything you need. Fast Wi-Fi, meeting rooms, great coffee, daily breakfast and snack, and a vibrant community to keep you inspired. From dedicated desks to private offices and enterprise suites, there's a space for you. No matter where you are in the journey, the Square has a spot to help you succeed. Check out the Square's co-working and flexible office space today and take your work to the next level.
It is SpyHop, right? And that spy hopping is what a whale or a dolphin does. When they poke their head out of the water and they rotate around. Yeah, it's a metaphor for helping young people make sense of the world around them. My career started out, I was a teacher. Okay. I started out teaching, hey, we're moving to Salt Lake and I would love to learn more. So we call ourselves a youth media organization, really using digital media arts, so film, audio, music, and design as a tool of empowerment, engagement, education. And we serve about 10,000 kids a year, but to help them find their voice, tell their stories, and be empowered to affect positive change in their lives, communities, and the world. And that's the key. And it just resonates so deeply with me that I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. I traveled to the White House and we received an award from Michelle Obama.
Wow.
Showing up for our young people, listening to what they have to say is incredibly important, especially right now.
What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Small Lake City Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Nilsson, and this week's guest is Kassandra VerBrugghen, who is currently the executive director at SpyHop. Now, SpyHop is an organization geared towards the education of the digital arts, primarily towards youth, but for everybody who's curious to learn more about it. And Kassandra's journey at SpyHop starts about 17 years ago, where she moved here from Seattle after her husband found a job here at Black Diamond, and she found this great role at SpyHop. Now, her journey at SpyHop is coming to an end as she steps down to enjoy some of her favorite hobbies of skiing and climbing and spending some time with her husband and other family. But she leaves a legacy that has impacted so many people, so many students, and so many of the youth around the valley that leaves a legacy behind that's going to be some shoes hard to fill. But it's a great conversation around creativity, why it's important in our community, what makes Salt Lake City so great, and her role in it all, and what she's looking forward to in the future. So, enjoy. Copious amounts of examples of people that walk through the doors at SpyHop, or these kids that come through, like, I've never touched a camera, I've never opened up Premiere, I've never looked at audio levels. And the next thing you know, they're walking out with a finished product. Yeah. And you're like, that's how this works.
Yeah. That is how it works.
And a little tidbit about me is I have had another kind of creative journey going in tandem with all of this. As I'm talking about, 5 years ago, I had the idea for the podcast and slowly became a reality. I also had this creative itch, and I had a feeling they were connected, but not at the same time. And so a friend gave me this 10-week learning to paint acrylic art class. And it was off to the races. The thought of going from my other things in life that are so quantitative and then to just go into this world of creative. I would have never called myself a creative person, but then all of a sudden I'm oh, yes.
I guess I am.
Yes, I am. And I fundamentally believe that we are. The quote that's been resonating a ton with me recently, that it was just a stupid TikTok or reel or something, but it was this woman saying, we all think the opposite of depression is happiness, but the opposite of depression is expression. And so there's so many things that get so clogged up in our head and all these anxieties and feelings and stress that it's not about making it go away, but really just giving it a way to express itself and come out. And so every time I tell people I paint, well, I'm not a creative person. That's not me. I'm when's the last time you actually tried or actually pushed on yourself to see if that was true or not?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of young people too now, youngish, we used to always be the right brain, left brain people, and that you had to pick one. And that's always, you had a path. If you were going to be an engineer or you were going to be an artist, you're not both. And now you can be both. And I think sort of evolutionarily speaking, humans have evolved to be able to really tap into both sides of their brains at the same time.
Exactly.
So being able to understand the sort of the technology behind it, but then having this imaginative, mindset, this creative mindset to be able to, sort of turn on that piece at the same time that's the sweet spot that, makes everything work.
and a lot of people try to draw this fine line between the two, right? And I mean, one example I always give people is someone I used to work with who was a software engineer. It's like, I'm not a creative person. I sit in front of a computer and write code all day.
You're like, oh.
And I was like, but the artistry of it doesn't have to do with having like, being able to draw or write or paint or write music or whatever. But there's artistry in everything. When you master something enough, you can see like the beauty in it. So even if it's code, like you can code in such a beautiful way or put everything together that's so harmonious. Like, oh yeah, like what you created here was amazing. Like, good job. It doesn't have to be a painting and walk away from like your sipping paint night with like this easel of a sunset. So I like, that's one thing that's just been like, I don't call it an awakening, but just have this appreciation for creativity, what it does for people, what it does for society. I mean, especially when we have a place that, I mean, I love Salt Lake, but it's not like a place of culture. Like no one's like, oh, I want to go experience Salt Lake because they have such a great culture. We've kind of muted that a lot. And that's a whole nother 2-hour conversation. But anything.
Well, we're working to change that.
Exactly. And so it's fun to meet people like, I don't know if you know Micah Christensen, who, I mean, Anthony's Fine Art and Antiques. I've been recently talking with Nanette Amos, Utah Art Market, and she just opened up her own gallery called Four Lemons out in Holiday. Oh. And so I'm like, anybody who's highlighting artists, creating a community around art and creativity, I'm all about it. And so, I mean, specifically with SpyHop, like it doesn't have to be painting and art and drawing in this, but like anything someone can take this raw medium, even if it's not, I mean, paint, canvas, whatever, put it through this process, this creative vision that you have, and then have this outcome be that. I mean, that's a magical process.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm excited to talk today about, I mean, more about SpyHop. I mean, you've been here for 17 years now. I mean, that this phase of your life is coming to an end. I'm sure it's like a bittersweet end, but at the same time, I'm sure there's so many people that you've impacted through all the things that you've done to send people on their creative journeys, whether it's the end all be all of it all, or it's part of their way or part of that left brain, right brain journey that they get to experience every day. So thank you already. Thank you for everything you've done, but I'm excited to hear more about it.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Also, Kassandra VerBrugghen. Okay, I said it. Okay.
Wow, that was really good, actually.
Listen, the amount of times I've had to put people's names and like, how do you say name on Google? It pops up and I'm like, all right, we're all in now. So thank you, Google. But I actually don't even know, but like, are you from Salt Lake, born and raised, or where did your story begin?
Oh my gosh. Well, I have moved around quite a bit in my life, but I moved here from Seattle and I'd been there for about 12 years. Got my master's there, and but my husband and I are climbers and skiers, and he works for Black Diamond, and I was the executive director of a youth development organization in Seattle that
Which one?
It's called the Austin Foundation.
Okay. So I lived in Seattle for 4 years.
Oh, no way.
And,
what years?
It would have been, let's see, I moved there in 2017.
Okay.
2016, moved out in like 2019. So I was like right in Cap Hill, Belltown area.
Okay. Yeah. So the Austin Foundation is which I don't even know if they're still around. I do think that Willie Austin, who has since passed away, started this thing, but it was all around fitness training, nutrition awareness programs, kind of health justice work with largely African-American youth. But just, living in an urban environment and a food desert. And so we did it was like trainers, really. What we did is worked in the after school environment with young people and getting them healthy, learning how to read labels and go shopping and what kind of food to eat and then exercising and all of that. So anyway, we were doing that, I was doing that, and he got this job offer to move here. And like, it was not on the bucket list. Salt Lake City wasn't.
Shocker.
But if you're a climber and a skier, this is a beautiful place and it's kind of central to so many amazing areas. And so, like literally, he flew down. I think we flew down together, and like a week later, they offered him the job, and then 2 weeks later, he took the job, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do?" And so I started like searching what's going on. What kind of youth programming is going on? What kind of education? What kind of just what was happening? And SpyHop was looking for a managing director. And so I called up the founder, who was the executive director, and his name is Rick Ray. And I was like, hey, we're moving to Salt Lake, and like, I would love to learn more. So I just got on the phone with him and we chatted, and I was like, oh my gosh, what a beautiful, like, cool concept, working with young people who, maybe are not finding success educationally in the education system, who are creative, who want to tell stories, who have something to say. And the model was very similar to our model. It was a mentor-based model, pairing up adults, who are carrying role models, if you will, with young people and helping them to pursue their passions. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this totally would fit. So I flew out and met with him, and like they were just, I don't know how long, well, let's say you left at 2017, but we used to be on 5th West and 200 South.
Okay.
Across the street from the road home.
Yes.
And they were just finishing building out that space for SpyHop. And so I toured, but they hadn't moved in yet. Anyway, long story short, threw my name in the hat, got hired for the job. My husband had already come out because he had already, had to be out here for the job. And I packed up our house and, a few months later moved out and started as a managing director. And then about a year and a half later, Rick was like, hey, I'm going to be stepping down. And, so I threw my name in the hat and that was in 2010 and became the executive director at that time.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And there's this, based on your experience in Seattle and your experience here, it's a lot of youth programs and helping youth in some way, shape, or form. Has that always been a part of your career, or was there a point where it shifted towards that?
Well, my career started out, I was a teacher.
Okay.
I started out teaching after I graduated from undergrad, and that was in Arizona. And I taught adult education, so young people who've dropped out of high school and they go back to get their GED.
Yep.
Worked with young women who were coming out of the system, working with folks who were, unhoused, working with all kinds of different folks, but helping them essentially get a high school diploma. So I did that for about 5 years and then decided I wanted to go back to school and get my master's. But I had always wanted to be my journey was always, I wanted to be in marine politics, marine affairs. My undergrad is actually in political science, but with a minor in marine ecology.
All right.
And so I moved to Seattle because that's where I wanted to go to school and I needed to get,
Was it UW or?
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah. So I wanted to get my residency so I could go there. But anyway, moved there, didn't get in, took the GRE, didn't get in. And ended up working for a nonprofit organization that does like maritime policy and safety. And so there's a lot of curriculum development stuff. There was a lot of, legal, all the politics around, we're largely working with the fishing industry that worked in the Bering Sea.
Yes.
So yeah, not this work at all. But I've realized over time that those weren't my people. Like it wasn't, I kind of heard you say some of this earlier. You go down a path in your life and you're like, wow, is this, are these the people I want to be with every day in my life? And like, I realized no. And the environment was changing so much that I really did need to decide if I was going to go legal or not. Cause my whole thought was potentially I could get a law degree. I could move in that direction. And I was like, yeah, I don't really want to do that. And I was really missing education. And so I actually went back and I was running basically this nonprofit organization. So I was doing all the everything, and went back to school, got my master's in public administration, with a focus on nonprofit management, and from the UW, and that was in 2004, and then. I've been a climber for a million years. And so promptly quit my job and, took a trip around the world. I went climbing around the world and spent a year. We called it the, Slacker World Expedition. Cause, we quit our jobs and decided to go traveling. And so we did that and then came back in 2000, late 2005, early 2006. And then I started working as the executive director of this nonprofit. And yeah, so that, I've had, I'm one of those, my journey has not been linear,
Good.
It hasn't. And, every place I've been, I've actually worked, I haven't had that many jobs. I've actually worked pretty long in all the jobs that I have had. So yeah, found our way here and we were like, oh, we'll give it 2 years and 5 years and it's just like, oh my gosh, 17 years later, here we are,
Classic.
And so, yeah.
And I love of how much it fits you and your husband's life, right? If you mean being at Black Country, or is it Black Diamond? Black Diamond. I was getting mixed up. Being at Black Diamond, I mean, based here, you both love to climb. Few better places to be. And then you find this role where you're like, oh, I get to keep working with youth and scratch this itch that I know is part of what I want to do. I'm sorry, there's not as much of marine biology for you to
gave that one.
Here.
Well, it is SpyHop, right? And that spy hopping is what a whale or a dolphin does. When they poke their head out of the water and they rotate around. Yeah, it's a metaphor for helping young people make sense of the world around them. So there was a little bit of the, the marine affairs in there. But
you got to have a little subtle nod to it. Gone, but no, it's still part of your life. It's still part of your, like similar for me, like when I started college, I was like, I'm going to be an architect. I'm so excited to go build and plan things. Take an intro to architecture class. I'm like, nope, not enough jobs, not enough creativity, just not for me. And like, thankfully I'm to the point in life where everybody who decided to do something, they're doing it now. And so it's nice to be like, oh yeah, I'm glad I wasn't an attorney, glad I didn't go to medical school, glad I didn't do this. And like, I have a couple architecture friends, I'm like, sorry guys, glad I wasn't that.
Yeah.
But it's also nice because like, it doesn't mean I can't be passionate about architecture, like appreciative of good architecture. Like not everything has to be a professional pursuit, or you have to be great at something to love it. And so I'm sure similarly for you, like, I mean, I'll speak personally, but every time I go to an aquarium or I'm near an aquarium, I will always go, especially if they have river otters, and I will sit there for 30 minutes and I will just watch them. Like I have a tattoo of a river otter because it's like my spirit animal and just very connected.
Nice. Yeah.
So we'll always have that appreciation, but doesn't mean I need to go be a marine biologist or go be an architect.
Right.
But I also love like the nonlinear part of it. Cause I mean, I think there's also a conversation I've had so many people in the past year where essentially them being like, hey, I did everything people told me to do. I've done a lot of great things, but I don't like this. I didn't like, this isn't for me, but I don't know what to do because I honestly don't even know who I am. And so a lot of people get this perception that's like, I always use accounting as an example, but like, okay, cool, I'm going to go get my undergrad. I'm going to go get my master's in accounting. I'm going to go become a CPA. I'm going to go work at a big four accounting firm. And then it all kind of works out. And so people go through this only to get there and be like, the thing is I actually don't like accounting. So what do I do with this? So I love that you have this example of like, I have like these strong pillars of what I want to do. Maybe not quite that much. I do want to do this, maybe not quite that much, but then kind of have it all come together as you iterate on it. It's almost like this narrowing pendulum swing. So you find yourself in Salt Lake, and I like the kind of 2-year, 5-year, we'll give it a chance. And the next thing you know, you're like, we know.
I mean, that's what happens too. Like the older you get and, you realize, I mean, you're sort of in your working years and, we moved here in our working years and that's like what you do. And actually this is a beautiful place and an incredible, I mean, SpyHop, our mission, what we do is just like, so, dear to, just my soul, but at the same time you could still, go climbing and skiing and do the thing, like we have the mountains so close to us. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's jump into that then. I mean, you come here, you hear of SpyHop, you apply, end up getting the role. I mean, for those who aren't as familiar, I mean, we've been alluding to it, but tell us more about SpyHop. I mean, its mission and what you're hoping to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, we call ourselves a youth media organization, but some people, there's another term that we use also. It's called creative youth development. So it's really using digital media arts, so film, audio, music, and design as a tool of empowerment, engagement, education, a way to give young people, to help them build skills, dispositions, mindsets, that we all need to thrive. So we are a mentor-based organization. So we have professional media artists, our full-time, our teaching artists that work with our young people. And we work here at the center, in the, Central 9th District, but then we also work around the state. So we literally travel and work in schools, work in youth centers, as we were talking about we have a radio podcast program that we run with incarcerated youth. And it's all project-based. So, and it's all what we call scaffolded. So, a young person can come in at an introductory level and work their way up. And we serve about 10,000 kids a year.
Wow.
At the center here is about 1,200. And I kind of think of it as a sort of pyramid. We work with a lot of kids in schools across the state, but maybe hour, half hour, 2 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours max. But then as you work your way up here at the center, we have kids that'll be here year round, fewer young people, but they can, spend upwards of a couple hundred hours working with, one another, and working on projects. So yeah, it's all project based. So, anything from a filmmaking class, like a documentary filmmaking class, to a narrative filmmaking class, to digital design, animation, gaming, audio engineering, music. We've got a radio show on KRCL called Loud and Clear Youth Radio that's been running for 22 years now. So it's kind of full spectrum media arts programming, and all of our programs, our teen programming is all free. We do also, and we work kind of 12 to 19, if you will. And in the summertime, we run summer camps with younger kids who are aged 9 to 12. And then summer camps, there is a fee associated with those, but all of our other programming is free. And at the end of the day, our young people are walking away with a portfolio of work and ideas, but also an opportunity to really express who they are and develop those identities, whether they're professional identities or creative identities, and really dig into something that they care about, and either write a piece of music or a song or a movie, or and share that with the world and share that with the adults. And, our mission is to mentor young people, but to help them find their voice, tell their stories, and be empowered to affect positive change in their lives, communities, and the world. And that's the key. It's like giving them a seat at the table. Yeah. We need to hear from young people. They're going to be, the leaders of the future, and they have something to say. And it's really important that we listen to them and provide them a safe space where they can explore those ideas and create some really cool art.
Totally. And we live in such a world where, it's not even like the world of like 2024 or almost 2025 specifically, but we've lived in a world where media and the way we interact with it has become such a huge pinnacle of our lives, and has helped shape a lot of like the cultural way that we approach a lot of other, almost everything. And the example that comes to my head is one of my favorite people in the world is Malcolm Gladwell. And he talks both in his podcast and his most recent book about, oh my gosh, what's the show?
Yeah, there you go.
So he talks about Will and Grace, and you look at the rates of approval of homosexual relationships, homosexual marriages, and it was pretty low before kind of early 90s, mid 90s. And all of a sudden the show comes out that like breaks a lot of the molds of how like a gay character was supposed to act, what was acceptable. And all of a sudden you come out of that and it like completely flips. And so in the same way, the way that we can give people this voice to evoke emotion, tell a story, and really use this as a way to express themselves or themselves, but also like, if a cause they're about, the story that they want to tell, whatever that might be, that's a powerful tool. Like I always joke with my friends as we like go back, and especially college friends talk about, I studied this, I don't do this anymore, I studied that. But if there's one skill that I used to jest at people who studied it in college, was strategic communications. I'm like, you're just getting a communications degree. But now every single thing has to deal with, how do I communicate this? How do I strategically communicate this? How do I get kind of my outcome I want? Or how do I create a narrative or a message? And so it's an amazing skill to teach people, especially in a way that can reach so many other people.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that was really interesting to me as I was looking into SpyHop, and actually this is another way that I found SpyHop, so I have a rule of threes in my life. If something gets recommended to me 3 times, we're in. I just started a new book because there's 3 of my good friends that talked about it unbeknownst to each other. I'm like, okay, we're reading the book. And so a SpyHop, it was mentioned by Ava, and then it was mentioned by my friend Warner. And then I'm scheduling right now to get record with Missy. I never know how to say her name. Grace. Thank you. No, with Missy, great. And I saw that she's on the board here.
Yeah.
But then I looked at the board and it's a pretty impressive board. The other one that stuck out to me, Chris Lee, who started, I always have to either say it's RTFTK or Artifacts, depending on how much people know about it. But I'm like you would never think like this caliber of people are like, we're in this youth after school program for helping people create, digital things. And so it's amazing to see so many parts of the community want to support it and know that it's an important thing to do.
Yeah. No, we have an incredible board. We also have an advisory board, and this group of people who some of them are parents, some of them are just community members and leaders, and some of them are creatives. Yeah, it is definitely, they are our extension, our advocates, our ambassadors, and they've enabled this organization to thrive for so many years. So
yeah. And so when you, joined back 17 years ago, new to Salt Lake, new to the role, did you have any expectations of what you wanted to do with it, or where you saw it going, or just kind of along for the ride, see it where it goes as it kind of shapes?
Well, I think for me, I've always been a real hands-on learner. I'm a kinesthetic kid.
Same.
I don't do well when you just tell me something. I've learned, of course, how to listen over the years. But I'm more of a visual and kinesthetic hands-on. So I get it when, we don't all learn the same way. And sometimes, I totally, if there was a program like this when I was a kid, I would have been here. I was a musician early on. I played the flute. I was in an orchestra, and I gave that up. And I gave that up because I had no mentor. I had no one who, after band, I didn't know what to do with it. No one encouraged me or, told me that, look, you can be both. There's a both and in this world. You can be an artist and still do something else in your life. Mm-hmm. You don't have to pick and choose. And so all of that just resonates so deeply with me that, I'm in it. I believe in it so much. And plus it's so incredible and inspiring. And this is a place where you come into work every day. I love everyone I work with. They're so cool. It's just such a great, it's an awesome job. And it's a rare job. There's not very many of these awesome jobs out there. And so, that's just kind of kept me going because I feel super fulfilled. And I see the sort of the results because it is all project based. So, we do a big screening of all our most advanced films, and, they're talking about, how the destruction of the earth and what's going to happen. And we have Q&As and the audience is engaged. And it just resonates so deeply with me that I wouldn't want to be doing anything else.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm at a point in my life where, it's a lot of work, running an organization. We're a $3 million budget, and it's, there's pressure to every year. We went through a capital campaign, built this building. We did some incredible stuff, and I feel really fulfilled. And I kind of just need to breathe now,
A flower doesn't bloom all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just need to be listen, I've been blooming for a while.
Yeah.
Someone else can take my spot, but I'm ready to move on to other things. And and as you alluded to, and it is public knowledge now, but stepping down, going to give the chair to someone else, but looking back at your time here, what are some of the things you look back fondly, accomplishments? I'm sure this building's part of it, but what else sticks out to you as you look back?
Probably the height of my, time here was, we won the President's Committee on the Arts and Humanities Youth Program Award. And one of our students, Kassandra Rodriguez, who actually now works for us, who's our outreach and community engagement coordinator, but she was a student at the time. This was 2015. And she and I traveled to the White House, and we received an award from Michelle Obama.
Wow.
And so that was just it's so incredible. Incredible to meet Michelle Obama. We were one of 10 organizations around the country, so it wasn't like we had a private meeting with her.
It's not like there's 1,000 of you. It's still
it was amazing. And so and Kitsy and I had such a great time together. And I'm not in the classroom, so I don't often have those deeper relationships with our kids. But over the years, I have. Those are our students who have been with us or stayed with us or became our, they start working here. We have now 8 alumni who work for SpyHop.
Wow.
And so, it has been, those are the moments, really having those, awesome experiences with, with our students. But yeah, the height was probably meeting Michelle Obama.
That would, if I had any story in my life that ended up with me meeting Michelle Obama, that would also be the height of pretty much my entire life.
And getting a hug. Oh my gosh. She's so amazing. And
she's like, you could let go now.
I know.
I'll tell you when I'm done.
She's a hugger. She's a big hugger.
Oh yeah.
So,
but I also love having 8 alumni that work here, because I would guess that none of them, when they started, like, oh, and by the way, is there a job opportunity at the end of that? That's probably not part of it. But to see that there's an organization that impacted their life so much and shaped them so much, they're like, no, actually, like, I want to now teach this, which speaks to, your and the organization's impact on these people's lives. And so it's that, I think that's like one of those crowning jewels that you can have in it all, and that people want to be supporting that process.
Yeah. We have our sort of our pedagogy, our approach to what we do. It's actually not like it's studied. You actually can get a degree in digital media and learning now. Certainly when SpyHop was founded in 1999, there wasn't that, didn't exist. There was no, Google and Facebook and cell phones and all that. Barely. And, but now, you can get degrees in this work, but we've worked really hard over the years to contribute to, as a thought leader and a partner nationwide to this work, through kind of how we do what we do. What are the pillars of that make what we do so impactful in a young person's life? And our students who go through our programs, they know that. Like, they will come out, and several years later, in fact, actually, we're getting ready to launch another alumni study. We do this about for every 5-ish years. And we're getting ready to launch another one, and really looking at the longitudinal kind of what's the long-term impact of this work on our alumni. But those alumni who have come back, and they know it, they can teach this, they can be a part of it. They understand the ethos in which we operate. They understand our kind of theory of change and what we do and why we do it. And, they make the best, ambassadors and mentors and work, employees. Yeah.
Especially thinking about how many people you impact, annually, and see how that compounds over 17 years. And I like what you alluded to, where it's like, I liked playing the flute in the orchestra, but there's this weird point in after senior year of high school where it's like, oh, is this going to get you a scholarship? Is this going to get you to college? Is this going to do this? If it doesn't, cool. It's not important anymore. That's what's now important. And I think that's the second part in life where those tend to drop off, because there's also this point at the end of childhood, before maturing, where you have this creativity, you have this imagination, and then all of a sudden adults are like, oh, no. Good grade. Stop playing in this imagination land. And I found the people who kind of power through that are usually successful people in their own right, just because there's this whole way that they see the world that doesn't go away. And so I like that. I'm sure, and all of these people, not all of them are now, these creative geniuses or go on to truly do this full time, but there's still going to be part of them that appreciates it, maybe does it part-time, maybe is a hobby, but they still go in and become amazing people in the community based on, the pedagogy that they were taught, but also the ethos of the place. That's going to shape their life forever, even if they become a full-time creator or just a creative enthusiast.
Well, yeah. You mentioned the accountant early on in our conversation, but I can think of one of our students who, went on to school and has a master's in accounting, and I think is now a CPA and working in a firm in San Francisco, but also plays in a band and has been playing in a band since, they left SpyHop,
Yeah.
So, it's being able to sort of nurture that, and keep that growing and going in a person's life, and knowing that we're the incubator, of that creative energy, is awesome.
Yeah.
Makes our world a better place.
I completely agree. And especially when we look at the world where it's more common for people to slash creative budgets and programs, especially in education and public schools, without realizing how deep that cut is in the long term, and especially in the lives of people, where, in very imperfect world, let's say they cut it all together, it's good to know that there's at least somewhere like this that, I mean, even if an after school program, or even as you go to schools around the state and locally, like there's still a voice there, and that can be a participating part of the community.
Yeah.
So I love that it's everything that it does. I'm a big fan of it, and hearing more just makes like, I wish I had kids be like, all right, this is your new thing. Come hang out. I'll come pick you up later, make friends. But it's so amazing to see people make such an impact to the community, especially over for so long.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously this chapter in your story is coming to an end. I'm sure, like I said, and bittersweet feelings as you look back, but I mean, what's the next step, or is it mostly just catching your breath before deciding?
Yeah, well, it is. It's catching my breath. I mean, I've got, I have life stuff, this is the other thing when you're an executive director of a nonprofit organizations, it's really hard to do life and, your job in its fullest and what it all needs. So, I've got aging parents, and I've got, we still have our home in Seattle that we've been renting out since we moved here, and it's all great, but it's like a house that was, it's kind of an 800 square foot shack that like I bought, you know what I mean? Yeah. That like needs, like it wasn't meant to live 100 years, and it's like going to be 100 years old. So we have to, do some work, and then, we just, I want to go travel and do some climbing. So anyway, I don't know how long, I think 6 months. Off, I know. I'm like, is it another year off? We're still working on it, trying to figure it out, but 6 months, to a year. And then, and we'll see. I might pick up some, maybe some consulting work, or do, I've got this incredible network around the country too, which is really cool. And so many great organizations doing amazing work, that in this field that I've connected with. And so I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. I'm kind of just going to breathe for a minute, and then come back and see. I mean, I got lots of life and energy left. And so, yeah, we'll see. I have no idea. Hey,
but that's the best. I don't know. I always love those moments in life. Like there's the quote, it's been going through my head a lot recently, from Night at the Museum, where it's like the end of the night, Robin Williams' character is about to go back to his statue, and Ben Stiller, he's like, well, I don't know what to do. He's like, how exciting.
Yeah.
And then it's also like the Cheshire Cat of like, well, where do I go? It's like, well, where do you want to go? It's like, well, I don't know. Then it doesn't matter. You might as well go do something. So I love that you get to have this time in life to go from, a lot of expectations and stress and anxiety and running an organization, to being like, you know what, let's get some me time. Let's go travel some more. Let's go do a lot of my hobbies. Let's go see some loved ones. Let's go take care of this house, make sure it's still standing up.
And I just love, we're in such a good spot and a good place. And, we've, this organization is going to be around for many, many, many years. And so it's cool. And I'm excited to see, to continue to follow. I'm excited to like be in the audience, I'm excited to come to, our events and see, all the work, and it's going to continue on, and makes me feel really good. I know I can walk away and everything's not going to fall apart. You know what I mean?
A year later, like, and we're shutting our doors.
Yeah. No,
we
won't. We are so solid. We've got an incredible board, an incredible staff, this beautiful building. It's paid off, so
yeah, and
we're in good shape.
And I don't know how intentional it was to be like in the Central Ninth area, but I think this is, such a great addition to it. Cause like I'm a big believer, like anybody who listens to the podcast regularly knows I talk about this area very well. Because even at a dinner with friends in Sugar House on Wednesday, and we just kind of went around the table like, oh, what are your favorite spots in Salt Lake? And I was like, oh, I really like go to Central Ninth Market a lot. They're my favorite breakfast sandwich. Noah and Max are the homiest of homies, and like they always have great food. And someone's like, wait, isn't that right next to him? Like, yeah, you go Central Ninth, and then you have Water Witch, and then you have Barnum, and then you have the architecture firm, and then you have Blue Copper, and then you go around the corn and the pearls there, and you go down there, and they're like, oh, that area well. Like, I spent a good amount of time there, and like all of places are which that I would stop for a various reason, go stop by and get a record at Randy. Like, it just keeps going. And so I love that it's here, because like the way I kind of see it is right now it's almost like a childless place, like a restaurant, bar.
Right. I know.
So it's nice to be like, okay, like to have a true community, you kind of have to have like something that can be offered to everybody. And so I love that there's this kind of creative hub and way to create, another place to create community in the area. Cause if I could invest like personal, be like, I bet on this area. I bet on this area a lot. And I love that you guys get to be a part of this story in such a beautiful space too.
Yeah. And we have this incredible like event space. I don't know if
Is it the roof?
It's the rooftop. Yeah. So we call it the rooftop, but it's actually an indoor and outdoor, but it's about almost 4,000 square foot space. So that folks rent out or, so we do a lot of community events and corporate events and weddings and all kinds of really cool creative, events that take place up there. And so that's also a place. A lot of people actually have been to an event up there and haven't actually been to SpyHop, but they know about the rooftop. And it's an earned income stream for the organization, which is cool. So, it helps us to offset our operating costs. It's a really cool spot.
When it kind of threw me for a whirl, because when I put into Google, I'm like, I think I'm 90% sure where it is, but what's the best way to get there? Because it comes up with both. There's like SpyHop and there's SpyHop Rooftop. And I was like, I think I know which one I'm going towards. But, and I assume something similar, but everybody loves a great space where you can have great events and bring people in. So I'm glad that both for your, reducing OpEx, but also everybody likes having a good space, bring people together.
Yeah.
Quick random question. Have you ever been to Smith Rock in Oregon?
Okay. Yeah, lots, tons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was, obviously like born and raised in Utah and like climbing is one of like the pillars of recreation of Utah. But that was one of the first places that I went to, like, because for those who don't know, it's this rock in the middle of kind of nowhere. It's a state park. It's like 35, maybe 45 minutes north of Bend. And it kind of just like pops up. And it's like this almost red rockish looking formation in the middle of the Pacific Northwest, which is really foreign to that. So it kind of sticks out, but it's this like mecca for climbing, which I didn't know when I went. I just saw a pretty state park with gorgeous hikes. Let's go. And then it's fun because like it's all this kind of large hill, not quite mountain in the middle. And there's the most popular hike is you walk around it kind of in like a counterclockwise way. And it's fun because I remember going around it. It's pretty. There's this place called Monkey Rock and you come around and then you kind of come around and all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's someone highlining right there. There's another one there. There's 20 people climbing all of this. And it's like one of the few times in my life where I've been like, whoa, like this is where people come to climb. And now I know. So every time I run into a climber, I was like, have you been here? I want to gauge how much this is a hobby in Salt Lake versus going other places. So
no, it kind of like got it started in sort of the mid 80s, and a lot of like mid 80s to early 90s when, a lot of like when sport climbing was sort of became a thing, around the country. And, I've spent, living in Seattle, like, it was a 6-hour drive, but we would do it for a weekend, so drove down, back and forth, every weekend, climbing down there.
Cool.
So yeah. And it was kind of, it's like, you can, when it's sort of on the kind of eastern sort of cusp of the Cascades, and so it would be it's from Portland you go up and over Mount Hood, and so you're kind of on the eastern side, so it doesn't get it. It's not as rainy.
Yeah, it's a lot more arid, kind of like here.
Yeah, so it's it's sort of the high desert, or I don't even how you would describe it, but so yes, if it'd be like dumping rain in Seattle, you can go for the weekend down to Smith and get away from the rain and go climbing. And so.
I do miss that part of Seattle because like I love, obviously Utah is well known for, I could get in a car right now, drive 3 hours any which way and I'd be in a very different place. But it was nice with Seattle too, because it's like, oh, do I want to go to Olympic National Park? Do I want to go up to North Cascades? Do I want to go to the San Juans? Do I want to go to Eastern Washington? Then that's just Washington. Then you have everything in Oregon and also everything up to Vancouver. And if for some reason someone kicked me out of Salt Lake, so to speak, and I had to go somewhere else, I'd definitely start driving towards the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
But
it's a little crazy. We go, we actually, we go back frequently. My husband's family still is there. And then I have actually family in Portland. So, we're up there quite a bit, but the traffic just is so horrible. And so, there is that. It is nice here, although we're kind of getting there. Luckily, I don't get on a freeway every day to come to work, but, traffic is getting bad here too, but it is really bad there.
Yeah. And it's like, I usually go to Seattle at least once a year to go visit friends or just go to the old stomping grounds. And I moved out at the perfect time. It was like early 2019, COVID hits. And every time I go back, I'm like, because when you go back to places you've lived, you're like, oh, I miss this. It could be fun to be back. Blah, blah. But like every time I go now, I'm like, man, I'm okay.
I'm okay. Yeah.
And I have family that lives in Portland, and it was kind of fun because like I was in Seattle. My cousin and his boyfriend were in Portland. He is a chef by profession. And so he'd be like, cancel your plans. We're on our way up. I have like the whole night planned for us. And likewise, we'd come down, like, cool, we'll put together a night together. Really like taught me how to drink wine, taught me how to like appreciate good food. And so every time he comes here, I do the same thing. Like, I'm going to put together a night out for us.
Oh, fun.
And so it's fun. I'm like, okay, we're going to get started at Bar Nome. We're going to get some drinks and appetizers. We're going to go down to Mateo, and we're going to get some good Italian food. And we're going to go have drinks after at Edison. And it was fun because he was like, man, this feels like Portland used to feel like 6 years ago. And I was like, ooh, that is such a good compliment. And anybody else would not even know it.
Yeah.
And so it's fun to see.
Well, we always looked to Portland. Salt Lake has always looked to Portland as they're kind of like, oh, what should we be doing? How should we be handling this? What, because it is a similarly sized, city. I mean, really. Yeah. I mean, if you don't think about the sprawl in either Salt Lake or in Portland, but just, geographically, I mean, maybe the geographic area in Portland's maybe a little bit bigger, but
I see the similarities.
There's some similarities.
So, I mean, big skier, big climber. I mean, what are some of your favorite places around Utah when you're not here, or that you look forward to when you have more time to yourself?
Yeah. Well, of course, just like locally here, Little Cottonwood is kind of, I'm a granite. I love to climb granite. So Little Cottonwood's amazing. But Big Cottonwood, there's American Fork Canyon. So climbing, there's all the canyons here, but Little Cottonwood's probably my fave. But then going a little bit further, we go down to the San Rafael Swell, which is desert bedrock, got kind of adventure, crack climbing. Or we go up to the City of Rocks, which is in Idaho, and big, beautiful, granite domes. And so that's super fun. And it's just, it's beautiful. So those are kind of like our go-to places. We just got back from Red Rocks, down in Vegas over Thanksgiving, and climbing in the canyons there. It's just amazing. Love that place. And then, gosh, yeah, where else? I mean, if going down to Indian Creek, if we wanted to go further, which is, down between, it's like Moab and Monticello, essentially, in canyons, canyonlands there. And so that's just incredible climbing there. Where else? And then just traveling. Yeah. But I mean, being here, if you want to drive at like 6 hours in any direction, you're going to get to world-class climbing areas. You can climb, you can drive 3 hours in any direction, and we'll go to Wyoming, and there's wild iris and lander, and you can go to 10 sleeps. If you want to go 4 hours or 5 hours, you go to lander area. Wild iris is a little bit before lander, but and then 10 sleep, which is that's about a 7-hour drive. So. Yeah.
Depending on how far you want to go.
Depending on how far you want to go, what kind of rock you want to climb, if you want to climb trout, you want to climb sport, this is kind of the place.
Hard to beat. There's people who have said this is the place before.
That is true. I will always pitch, showing up for our young people, listening to what they have to say is incredibly important, especially right now. And so we do actually have a showcase happening Monday, 4 to 6 p.m. at SpyHop in our student lounge. It's our film, audio, music, and design apprenticeship. So our students will be talking a little bit about the work that they've done and sharing out. That's a program where we work with some clients. And so we've been doing some client-based work, including a collaboration with that's part of the Great Salt Lake Collaborative. Cool. And so I think we're going to be sharing out some of that work. And so anyway, that's always depending on when this thing airs, that's always something I always like to pitch. Yeah. But definitely visit our website and we've got some incredible, or listen to Loud and Clear on Saturday nights. If you ever want to listen to music, you want to hear music that you probably would never hear anywhere else, or maybe sometimes some really old music that throwback, that listen to Loud and Clear, 9 to 10 on KRCL 90.9.
And then lastly, Kassandra, the two questions I always ask everybody at the end of every episode. First, if you could have someone on the Small Lake City podcast and hear more about what they're up to and their story, who do you want to hear from?
Oh my gosh. Well, you've Missy Grice. It sounds like you already have Missy Grice on. Missy's involved in so many things in the community. But gosh, who else? I mean, even some of our other board members. I mean, Annie Kwan is amazing, and is involved in so many, different organizations and different work. So Annie Kwan would be a perfect one as well. There's also a woman named Erica Carlson, who is also new to our board and kind of not new, like she grew up in Ogden, but is now living back here and doing a lot of work with the ballpark action team with the bat, going to bat for the ballpark. And so she's amazing. Fraser Nelson, I'm not sure if you've heard of her. Mm-mm. She's amazing. I can give you a list.
I love lists, especially people that are doing cool stuff and have great stories.
Really good. I mean, I would have to say, there's so many. One thing about Salt Lake is that people really care about this place, and they're willing to. They volunteer and do everything and commit to making sure that this is the place. And so, and like I said, I've a lot of our board members, but also just some other. And I will say the women in Salt Lake are amazing. I'm also part of the Utah Women's Forum, and just I'm reading a book which actually could be really great. Amy Wadsworth wrote a book called Resolution that came out just this year. And it's about really kind of her family in growing up, or her family in Mill Creek. And she was from a polygamous family, and really interesting story. So, beautiful book, super intimate, just an incredible story. She would be great. She used to be the director of the Salt Lake Arts Academy for many, many years. And she's an author, and Amy Wadsworth. Yeah. Just saw her the other night. So I can give you a list. I'll follow up with an email.
Yes. Cause that's the thing is I would say half of the people I talk to is my own personal interest. I have spent enough time talking to a lot of people in Salt Lake. There's these own rabbit holes I get curious and go down, some more than others. But then there's things because people be like, oh, who do you want to have on the podcast? I'm like, I can give you a list of people I think, but I'd rather you tell me who you think, because I only know what I know, and what I know is different than what you know. And I'd like to, and then sometimes people tell me, I'm like, thank you so much. That's such a good try. Probably not and people always reach out to on Instagram and email and be like, hey, I started a lawn care business 3 years ago. Do you want to talk? I'm like, I'm so grateful that you're a small business owner and doing this, but I don't think that many people care.
Yeah.
So it's a sweet spot, but I will always hear out people's recommendations, especially people that know the community really well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure if I sat here long enough, I could probably list a whole bunch of other people that I've really just shaped my life and helped, our organization, but also just, that inspire me every day. And there's a lot of those folks here in Salt Lake, and that's kept me here for 17 years.
And I have a friend who, it's fun now because I'm kind of known as the podcast guy, which I love. Because there's a lot of things in my life I've been known as. Nothing terrible, but I don't want to be that person anymore. And I was even at this event earlier this week. Oh, you're the podcast guy, right?
You're the podcast guy.
Bingo! Yep, that's me. We'll brand it. We'll take it. I will have it.
Well, it is Small Lake City. You got that one going for you. I'm surprised that one wasn't taken yet.
And then lastly, the last question I always ask is if people want to find out more information about, SpyHop, what's going on, what's the best place to find some more information?
On our website. Yeah, spyhop.org, SPYHOP.
Easy enough.
.org. Follow us on social media. But our website and social media.
Yeah. Yep. Between the two, you can find out all the great stuff. Yep. Come swing by this Monday, support our youth, support creative things, and we can start building a community. Because I always joke that the fundamentals of relationships are all the same, whether it's professional, work, family, romantic, whatever it might be. And the first one of all of them is showing up. And so if you want to have a good relationship with your community, show up to community events.
Yep.
So come if you can. I'm going to try to make it. I think I might have something, but if I'm not, I will be here.
Cool.
Kassandra, thank you so much for all the work that you've done here in this community you've built. I'm excited for whatever happens, even if it's just you climbing around the world. You deserve it.
Well, yeah, either that or riding some motorcycles. So, we'll see. There's like all of the above. I don't know. I know. And then I'll be working. I have to work. I'll be going back to work. So,
the unfortunate truth for all of us.
Yes.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Kassandra. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Salt Lake City Podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, review, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends. And we'll catch you next week. We'll see you there.